Echoes Down a Dark Well, written by Rick Wasley, narrated by Scott MacDonald. I awoke at the same moment a screaming, wild-eyed Saxon split my head with an axe. As a knight of William, the Duke of Normandy, I'd had nothing but contempt for the Saxon King Harold's dull-witted blonde huskarls who made up his royal bodyguard. I had been trained as a warrior since birth, unlike the bulk of the army standing next to their king atop a low rise who were mostly chorrels, farmers and peasants. True, they were sworn to come to his aid whenever he levied the ford for his army. But most of them were more familiar with a plow than a sword, whereas I had killed my first man at 15 and was awarded a war horse and a knight's status before I turned 18. Perhaps that made me overconfident. But for the first half of the battle outside Hastings, I had seen nothing that induced me to be cautious. We charged them twice, and each time I'd ridden down scores of farmers armed with whatever bits and pieces of weaponry they could glean. My massive destrier cut through Harold's first line like a predator through a flock of sheep and left them screaming on the blood-trampled grass. It wasn't until the third charge that the unthinkable happened. I was unhorsed. I will admit it now. I was cocky and careless and never thought that the mounted knight's greatest nightmare could befall me. But it did. One minute I was leaning from my saddle, swinging my longsword and cleaving their helmets, and the next, a skinny Saxon stripling with nothing but a rusty old spear had slipped under my horse and thrust the tip into her belly. The horse screamed and wrenched violently. I landed flat on my back on the ground, just managing to get to my knees in time to slash the hand of the boy carrying the spear, taking it off at the wrist. But before I could regain my feet, one of Harold's personal horse troop rushed at me. He swung his deadly 4-foot two-handed axe. I tried to deflect the blow, but the massive axe sheared through my blade, and the last thing I remember was the sound of my own skull splitting. So much for that life. I sat up in bed and rubbed my eyes, droplets of cold sweat dampening my fingertips. I got up and walked over to the window. The streetlight was still making that sputtering sound that reminded me of bugs frying in the bug zapper my dad had hung over the back porch the summer I turned 13, the summer the dreams started. Back then, they had scared the hell out of me. They still did sometimes. But by now, at least, I was used to them. You'd be scared, too, if you had them every night of your life. Every damn night. I went into the bathroom, filled the sink, and pushed my face into the cold water. It felt good, washing away the night's sweat. But it couldn't wash away the dreams. Nothing could do that. Hell, I'd been trying to do that for 30 years, and nothing even made a dent. Not drugs, or booze, or women, or music, or blood. And I liked all of those, though not necessarily in that order. I sat down on the bed, propped up a pillow against the wall, and reached for a cigarette. My hand hesitated a moment. I was vaguely considering getting into one of my quitting phases, maybe the 10th or 20th. Hell, who was keeping count? Not me. I put the pack down on the nightstand, then said screw it out loud to the empty room. If I checked out of this incarnation early, no one was going to shed a tear, least of all me. I lit the cancer stick and leaned back against the wall. Maybe it was time to help things along. I glanced over at the silver automatic on the nightstand next to the ciggies. It was a Desert Eagle Mark 19 50 caliber Action Express with the upgraded finger groove grip, the biggest freaking practical automatic pistol in the world. And right now, it was loaded up with 7 big fat 50 cal AE rounds. If I stuck that great big barrel in my mouth and pulled the trigger, whoever found me wouldn't even know it was me. I'd have no head.